Hello, and welcome to Blank Plate, a podcast for Swifties with an appetite.
I'm Sara, and I used to be a little kid with glasses and a twin-size bed.
I'm Laura, and I'm a mess, but I'm the mess that you wanted.
And we've got a blank plate, baby, and we'll write your name.
And someone is driving quite crazy outside of my window.
Yeah. I heard that. Oh my gosh.
Someone
Hello, everyone.
Yes, Taylor Swift.
Our reason for living.
That's right. These days, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. What's on our plates? I'll go first.
Okay.
Like I said last episode, we are in the thick of school preparation hours. I've officially started in-service as a teacher, which can be quite a bear because they throw all this new information at you and they're like, go do that. And they're like, how much time do we have? And they're like, you have this allotted time. And you're like, okay, but I also have to get XYZ things done to actually function in my classroom. When do I get to do that? And they're like, whenever you can. So I'm very lucky because my principal is awesome. I honestly love my school. But she's very good about giving us as much time as we can, which I super appreciate. But even that, it's still just never enough time. It's just like the teacher's plight, you know?
Yeah.
You just gotta push through. And I feel like lately I've been pretty good about just like, it's like water off a duck's back. Just gonna, you know?
Yeah.
And I think my like mantra this school year is it's not that serious.
Yeah.
Like, or maybe it should be something like no one's dying here. Or I don't know, because like there's just this sense of urgency as a teacher that is super false. Like we're constantly just feeling like there's so much pressure and like, oh, if this isn't done in XYZ, things will get sorted out.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. And at this point, I've taught 12 years, so we'll figure out a game plan. So anyway, I just feel like,
before.
Yeah. So it's just like the worst stressful time as a teacher, and the students aren't even in the door. So
yeah,
everyone say a prayer for your teacher friends. I think by the time that this episode comes out, we will have started school. I think I'll be in like technically the second week of school. So I will check back in and I will know that I've survived, but it will be just, you know, it's almost easier just to actually teach and do the day-to-day job. And I'm looking forward to that. So,
well, that's good.
There it is. Yeah.
Well, I'm in my cowgirl era. I've got a new hobby. I've only done it once, but I'm going again tomorrow, and it's line dancing.
Hey, love it.
Yeah. My friend Steph, who's a Swiftie, and she's the one who came over to watch the New Heights podcast that Taylor was on with me. She and I had talked a few times about like wanting to find line dancing. And she actually used to go all the time when she lived in San Diego before she would go with a friend. And so then she did some Googling and she found a place that's 5 minutes from my house that does line dancing every Wednesday night. So we went like 2 weeks ago and I had so much fun.
This is like so your jam because you also were a Zumba girl.
Yes, I was a Zumba girl.
Yeah.
I used to go with my mom like every Monday night.
Yeah.
Honestly, line dancing is harder than Zumba, in my opinion.
Oh, just like memorizing all of it. I can't even like wrap my head around it.
And it's all footwork, whereas like Zumba is like, it goes with the song. You're using your whole body. But this line dancing, you're just like looking at your feet and everybody else's feet. And you're like, wait, what do I do? And some of the songs are like really fast.
Yeah.
But it was great. So it's like this nightclub near us that's connected to a bowling alley. They do it every Wednesday. They've been doing line dancing there since the 80s or the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah. It used to be like 6 days a week. Now it's 1 day a week.
Wow.
But it's free. They just ask that you like buy something at the bar and they have food there. So
a great deal.
Yeah. The first hour is they teach you 3 dances and each week they like rotate, but each dance stays in rotation for like 3 weeks. So if you're coming every week, you get like a refresher course each time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first hour. And then the second hour is just like all the songs that they've like ever taught. So like when I went, we're learning, and Steph and I like had introduced ourselves. We got there early so that everyone knew we were the newbies, and we were like, we need help.
Yeah.
Like, can
Help
we
us out.
run that back for us? So the second hour, they're just playing songs, and everyone's just line dancing, like it's a movie. And we're like, what's happening? um, so I was like trying to just do it Zumba style, where you're just kind of like watching people and stuff. And then the third hour, they go back and revisit the songs that they taught in the first hour. So it's a whole ordeal, but I think I got like 6,000 steps in or
Oh,
something.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I was so sweaty. But it was so fun. So yeah, we're going again tomorrow. We're going to try to go like every Wednesday that we can. Just have it be like our girls' night dopamine hit
Yeah.
/ exercise.
Yeah.
So
Get it all in. Yeah.
between that and then I've been watching like cowboy shows like Ransom Canyon. Like I'm in my cowgirl era. I've got some
Hey,
cowgirl music I'm listening to.
giddy
So
up.
giddy up. That's where I'm at. So
Love it.
I hope that I can like stick with it and keep going. So we'll see.
Yeah, I can see you doing that
Yeah.
continually. So
Mhm.
hopefully, yeah. Taylor updates. Well, my goodness. Our last episode was all about basically the rollout and us unpacking new heights and what we know so far about the life of a showgirl. So like if you really want to get into that, listen to our last episode. But since then, and I'm sure by the time this podcast episode comes out, there's going to be something else that has happened.
Yeah.
But as of right now, Taylor announced new vinyl variants called the Shiny Bug.
The
And
Shiny Bug collection.
and we're like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was another countdown on her website on Monday to 2 p.m.
Which was odd.
Little strange.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, it was the Shiny Bug collection, which was 2 vinyl variants. Same photo for each one, but different like colorways.
Yeah.
She looks so hot.
Oh, yeah. She's serving.
The butt is looking good.
The body and face card is crazy.
Crazy. I did buy one. I bought the green one. I was insane for half a second and I considered buying both because she said it's the first and only pressing.
Mm-hmm.
And they did sell out in like less than an hour.
Right.
So I'm glad I got one. Plus it comes with a unique Shiny Bug poem inside.
Which, like, okay.
Yeah. But I'm guessing that there's going to be 2 more drops like this because we had the 4 CDs.
Mm-hmm.
One of the 4 CDs being the original cover.
Mm-hmm.
So I would guess we're getting 2 more similar drops. And I was like, I can't. If she's doing 2 more, I can't buy 2 vinyls each time. Like that's too far.
I know.
Too far.
I
can't do it.
The vinyl drops. It's not just Taylor who does this, by the way. Like a lot of artists do these variants where it's like,
yeah,
you know, and it's giving capitalism just in general. And I have to say, I don't buy into it the same way that I think you do. I'm just like, I'm getting the album.
Yeah.
Have at it. I'll look at the pics. I'm looking forward to it. But if you're a vinyl collector, like, I understand wanting to, like, get them.
Yeah.
It's a lot, though. It
is a lot. Yeah. And I was like, if I want to be, like, real serious about the collection, I would get both. But I was like, I don't... It just seemed like too much. Like, they're practically the same thing.
Right.
And I picked the color that would, like, pop better on my black record player.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's my deciding factor between the two colors.
Yeah.
But like our friend Rebecca, who bought both of them,
Yeah.
like
That's what I mean. Like,
in our
it's,
group chat,
yeah.
she was like, "You'll never be as crazy as me, Queen, because you actually spin these." Rebecca doesn't even open them, but like I will open it and play it. You know, if I'm like,
Yeah.
today's a shiny bug day, it's a shiny bug day.
Right. Which
Also,
everyone's like a shiny bug. Like I've heard like a lot of people comparing that to like a scarab, which is like an Egyptian bug that like arises with like the sun, is like a shiny bug. Also,
yeah, like a beetle.
yeah, like a beetle.
Makes me think of the movie The Mummy.
Well, a lot of people were saying that Cleopatra was played by Elizabeth Taylor.
Right.
And there is a track called Elizabeth Taylor, so perhaps that might be the tie-in, but I don't know. It'll be so interesting. Of course, there are all these like drips of like Easter eggs that she gives us, and then once we have the album, we'll be like, and there it is.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the black dog, and I mean, how many other variants were there for Tortured Poets? I can't even remember.
Well, I have all of them. So it's the albatross, the bolter, and the black dog. And then it's technically 5 if you include the anthology one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say these variants are way cooler than the Tortured Poets variants.
Mm-hmm.
So excited about that. So I did see like some comments online that were like, only Taylor Swift could make me like freak out about a countdown on her site. And then later when my husband asks me what it was, I have to say the Shiny Bug Collection.
And you're like, yep.
Yeah, it was the Shiny Bug Collection. And I bought one. So
I had to buy. So
I had to buy. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, here we are.
What can I say?
I actually have some other Taylor news that we can sort of tie into.
Okay.
Bake It Off, the unofficial Taylor Swift inspired cookbook for every era, is going to be released September 30th. So just some information. It's an unofficial cookbook, obviously, but with Taylor talking about baking so much, I feel like, what cosmic timing is this? Like for,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's by Lindsay Smith, but here in Lancaster, we have a baker by the name of, hold on one second. All of the recipes in the book were developed by Kristen Richards of Front Porch Baking Company here in Lancaster. So they're having a book launch here in Lancaster that Sarah and I are going to be attending. But you can pre-order it anywhere you get your books, but it's available on Amazon, whatever. We'll link to where you can pre-order it if you are a foodie/baking Swiftie, or just want to have this book in your cookbook collection. It looks really fun. It's 50 inspired recipes, playlists, and Easter eggs from breakfast to midnights. So
yeah,
love
that. It looks
that.
super cool.
Yeah.
Also, back to the variant thing, I just wanted to mention, because you were saying that like other artists do this as well. Sabrina Carpenter's album that's coming out, she did a handful of vinyl variants and she released them all at different times. And then it wasn't until the last vinyl variant that that one variant has a bonus track on it. Yeah.
So like, this is not, it's not just Taylor doing this. It's a ton of art. I know Billie Eilish has done this as well. And I believe Taylor's not even the artist that does the most of this sort of like variant drop in any capacity.
Didn't Brat have like 15 variants or something?
Yeah. I mean, this is the music publishing industry just really.
Yeah. And I kind of wonder, with Universal Music Group doing Taylor's like merch and, you know, the production of like variants and all that stuff, I wonder if they kind of like require this kind of rollout.
There's gotta be
maximum profit.
Something. Yeah.
I don't know, but like,
there's obviously a team that is interested in producing as much income as possible behind the scenes, whether it's Taylor or Universal or whatever. And it's not just her doing this rollout sort of, I guess, system.
Yeah.
But it is, I will say, as a consumer, to me, it's getting to be a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
yeah, sorry.
It is a lot. Yeah, I wish I didn't care, but
Yeah,
I have become a collector. Like,
you are a collector, right?
Yeah, like, and I use them. I love them. I appreciate them. But like, I didn't buy any CDs.
Right.
Like, I don't care about that. I don't know. It's like me saying that, like, oh, maybe it's Universal Music Group requirement. That's probably me just trying to take blame away from Taylor and like trying to hope that she's not doing this herself. But yeah, I do really wish that they would just say, here are all the variants today.
Pick one. Yeah.
And like, even if it's still limited run for like only pressing, but like just lay them all out there at one time so all of us can say either I'm going to be insane and order all of them if possible, or I'm going to pick one that I really, really want, and that's going to be the one that I order. Because that's why a lot of people get upset, because they're like some people are like, well, I would have ordered this like shiny bug one, but I already ordered the original one. So I'm not going to order both. Who knows?
Right.
It is what it is. We live in a capitalistic
That's
society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, switching it up from The Life of a Showgirl, which, by the way, we definitely will be doing more episodes on speculations and theories of the album that is going to be released in October. We're going to be doing a really devastating song today. We're going to be doing How Did It End?
Prepare yourselves.
If you are at all mentally prepared. Yeah,
Yeah.
This is going to be an emotional one. So,
yeah.
I literally took an emotional preparation nap before coming onto this episode. So,
yeah.
Hopefully I'm ready. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so album is obviously The Tortured Post Department, released April 19th, 2024, and it was written and produced by Taylor and Aaron Dessner.
Right. Okay.
Fountain quill or glitter gel pen?
Fountain pen.
She's got a lot to say with this one.
Right. This one's like straight from the gut.
I will say, like, there are quill pen tendencies in this song. Specifically that bridge.
Yeah.
But generally we're a fountain pen song here.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. What about Sister Song?
Sister Song for me is You're Losing Me. Both reference and like use like the metaphor of death in a relationship. But yeah, like, how long could we be a sad song until we were too far gone? And then, like, we hereby conduct this post-mortem, and the DYING of it all. Like, all of these things are, like, super connected in my brain.
Yeah.
And tell the story about, like, how this relationship basically was a slow, painful death for Taylor and, we're assuming, Joe. So, in my brain, like, You're Losing Me was sort of like the soft entrance, and then it's like the conclusion of the death is how did it end? So
okay,
that's where I'm at. What about you? What would you choose?
I think of its sister song being So Long London, because they're like sister track fives, right? We've got So Long London is the original track 5 on the album, but we think of How Did It End as being track 5 of the anthology, because it technically is. And I think that So Long London kind of answers the question of how did it end. So it's kind of funny that, like, in the album sequence, we get So Long London first instead of how did it end. And I checked which playlists they were in for the 5 stages of grief. How Did It End is depression, and So Long London is acceptance. And I think they're telling the same story. So like How Did It End is like being in the thick of that sadness and depression and kind of like reeling from the breakup. And then So Long London is that acceptance piece of like, here's how it ended. This is what happened.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But I mean, in our So Long London episode, we really talk about all three of these songs, like You're Losing Me being the third one, being like sister songs all together, because they are all part of the same story for sure.
Yeah. The question is, which one is the more depressing track 5? So Long London or How Did It End?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on the day for me. Probably How Did It End?
I think How Did It End is sadder. Yeah.
Yeah. Because So Long London has some anger in it. And I think How Did It End is just sad.
Yeah, I agree. Related album, we both said Evermore.
So yeah, like for me, the production of How Did It End is reminiscent of Champagne Problems on Evermore.
Mm-hmm.
And I do tend to think of the related album from a sonic perspective. Like, what does it sound like in the rest of her discography that you could throw it on this album and it wouldn't feel out of place? Like, you wouldn't put a Reputation track on Folklore unless it was New Year's Day. You know what I mean?
Excuse me.
That's
right.
So that's how I think about it. And yeah, I think that this song with like the piano and everything has like that like Aaron Dessner warmth that we have in Evermore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
We're in agreement there. Personal associations with this song. I mean, for me, it's like, it's so devastating, I can hardly play it. This and LOML are like the two songs where, and Marjorie on Evermore. Like, there are certain songs I just like, I can't listen to that unless I'm like in a state where I want to cry or I like need to be sad. So when I think of TTPD, like, this is really the track 5 for me because obviously like London is a personal like place and it's a personal association with Taylor, but like for me, like when I hear this song, it's almost, because it is a little bit more ambiguous, it's a little easier to connect to, so it makes it sadder because you can listen to it from your own perspective, if that makes sense. And honestly, there is just this devastating thought that we've all had when things end. It's like, I don't even know how we got here. Like, there's that confusion. And it's like, I think like as women, we often feel that, especially when like things end and it's like, I can't even like unpack this. It's like, it's, you know, and you're like, oh my God, Taylor feels that way too. So it's just one of those post-relationship breakups like feelings that she perfectly illustrated. So it is like the track 5 for me. So
yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's super devastating to me as well.
Yeah.
And this one hits home for me in two like very distinct ways from two major breakups in my life. And this is where
you guys,
it's time to get in to the personal lore of this podcast.
If you don't know, your minds are going to be blown about this. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you know us as like two Swiftie friends who like, yeah, we do like vlogs and like do like projects together. You don't know the lore. And you're about to learn the lore.
You don't know the lore. If you listen to our previous podcast, Passports and Pizza, you know this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Laura's husband, Luke, was my first boyfriend. Okay.
And not just like first boyfriend, but like long term.
Long term.
Like
6 years.
6 years.
6-year relationship.
And if you're wondering how the heck this happened, like Sarah and I's friendship, it's a long story. And if you're like, wait, Sarah, your ex-boyfriend's wife is like your best friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, Laura's husband Luke is my first boyfriend. When we broke up, we obviously remained friends because then he started dating Laura, and then Laura and I became friends, and now we're BFFs.
But the funny thing is, like,
podcast.
we met, and like I knew Luke liked me, but we were not dating. I was not serious about Luke at that point either.
Right.
So like, whatever. I met Sara and
Yeah.
your ex-husband. He was your fiance at that time.
Yeah.
Robert.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I really like both of them. I think we were at like this Samler somewhere in downtown, like at a bar. And I remember being like, oh, I really like them. And I really like Sara. And I like knew that was like Luke's ex-girlfriend, but it didn't matter to me because like, I don't know.
But the thing was, at that time, I think I knew that Luke was into you.
Oh, I think everyone knew that Luke
Everyone knew. So yeah, like, so I'm like, oh, okay. So this is the girl that Luke's into now, you know?
Yeah.
And also, I think it was either at my wedding to Josh or at your wedding, Luke was talking to my parents and he was like, I'm really glad that Sara and Laura are close, but like, I never thought they'd be this close.
He says that to me all the time. He's like, it's not really cool that like you're closer with Sara, who I still like appreciate and love, but like you're her like best friend. How'd that work out? And I was just like, well.
And that like Luke's always like jealous when we're hanging out without him, which is all the
Luke
time.
Luke has like FOMO about everything, but especially because like he obviously loves both of us, but it's just like, it's one of those things when your relationship ended, obviously you ended on good enough terms that you could remain friends and remain in each other's life.
Yeah.
And I never felt any which way about you. I know some people were like, how could you be friends with your boyfriend's ex-girlfriend? I was like, it's not like that. Like, it's just not
like one of us like stole him from the other or like we're trying to.
Right. I think there was like a year and a half between like, it was a long time.
And I was like already like engaged to someone.
I was in no way feeling like Sarah's going to try to get back with him. I was like, that's not happening.
Yeah, not happening.
So,
anyway, so
that's our lore.
That's our lore. That's like truly how we know each other.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, but so like I bring that up because obviously like Luke and I dated for 6 years, which is a major amount of time. Also, same amount of time as like Joe and Taylor.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah. But anyway, so like I was 16 when we started dating. Luke was 17. And then we dated like all through college and then broke up after college when I was like 22. Which also insane. Laura, wait, next year, 2026, will be 20 years since Luke and I started dating. How old are we?
We're so old.
What the hell? That's crazy.
Oh my God.
Oh, but also like Luke and I knew each other since middle school. So like we were already friends for a few years before we started dating and stuff. But like I would say that like our breakup was pretty ambiguous.
Yeah.
Where like nothing went wrong, right? Like
there wasn't a big blow up fight. It wasn't right.
Yeah, there wasn't anything that like technically went wrong, which is I feel like kind of how this song is describing it and like kind of what we've learned from Taylor about her breakup with Joe, which is why I can really like relate to it, is like nothing really happened. I mean, we know that his depression was an issue for their relationship. So like that can cause a lot of issues. But like, yeah. And it's like, so like Luke and I like grew up together, right? Like you are not the same person at 22 as you are at 16.
Right.
And like, I don't even know like what Luke would say. So like, I'm not going to speak for him.
But I can.
But like, I would say that it was more like we kind of like grew in different directions and we ended up like wanting different things. And it was also like kind of time for us to like experience life like as not part of a unit together, that kind of thing. But so like, that's why the line we learn the right steps to different dances, like hits me straight through the heart. Like, I'm like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
But also with this breakup, I was not the one who initiated it. So I was the one who was kind of blindsided by it.
Mhm.
And when I think back to that time, like, it's very fuzzy in my mind and, like I said, like, ambiguous. And so even at the time, to like tell people that we broke up and for them to
Right.
say like what happened,
Right.
it's
You're like, I don't know.
I don't know. Like, how
Yeah.
did it end? I don't know. I can't tell you. I was there, but I can't tell you. You
Right.
know? So like from that perspective of this song of how did it end, and Taylor saying like we should know how did it end?
Mm-hmm.
I really feel that. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
The other way I feel this is come one, come all, it's happening again. Because my first marriage ended. And so, and like with Robert, my first marriage, I met him like 6 weeks after Luke and I broke up. So like,
Mm-hmm.
but Robert and I were together for 8 years. And we know how that ended, which is he realized he was gay. Okay.
Another piece of lore if
Another
you're
piece of
unfamiliar.
my lore. So like, again, nothing like went wrong in the relationship,
Right.
but there was a very obvious reason for why it was over.
Right.
So for me, it was more like, oh, Sara is now going through another intense breakup. And like, I was married. I was like, okay, I did the thing. I'm married. I'm happy. We have a great marriage. We have a lot of fun. Life is good. And then it just ended.
Right.
And so then it's like, come one, come all, it's happening again. Like, I was like, I can't believe I'm going through this again. And I thought I was in the clear, you know?
And of course, during that time, like, it was during COVID that a lot of people were talking to you about this. And they're like, wait, like, what happened? What happened? And you're like, I don't really know how to say it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it happened like right when COVID happened.
Right.
So like that worked out well because we were able to like literally hide in our house and just like deal with it alone for a while until we were ready to like come out into the world and be like, hey, by the way, guys, we're not going to be married anymore.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah. So like,
sorry,
bless you. But yeah. So like you said, this is a breakup song that it has some of those classic like Taylor specific details, but even with that, it's so relatable. Like, even the line about guess who we ran into at the shops makes me think of like shortly after Luke and I broke up, I ran into one of my best friend's mom.
Right.
And she was like, girl, are you eating? Like, you're so skinny right now. And like I was the tiniest I'd ever been because the breakup diet is real.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like it just like you, and I was still in like that headspace of like what is happening to my life. And then you run into someone at the grocery store.
Right.
And they're like, how are you? Like, what's going on? And I mean, she knew what was going on because it was my best friend's mom. So,
and that like empathy, hunger, the you know, that like desire to be like, are you okay? Is always sort of disguised with like nosiness because you know, everyone wants the tea, everyone wants to hear like something like, oh, he cheated, or oh, like, you know, we got to this big fight, or like whatever. There's always like a hint of like, I want to make sure you're okay, but also like what happened. Like, you know?
Yeah.
And
we've all done it.
I've been on both sides. Yeah. And like Taylor specifically as a huge celebrity, like you have to imagine what that must be like, right? Like,
oh my God, I can't even imagine.
I can't. Like, it's too much to even fathom because, you know, when you and, you know, your boyfriend break up and your mutual friends discover it, of course, they're going to be like, wait, what happened? What happened? What happened?
Right.
That's a handful of people, not millions of people.
Right.
So
millions of people who are invested.
who
too.
don't know anything about you or them. So yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us on this bit of Sarah's lore.
Yeah.
There is
Laura's.
more. And mine a little
Yeah.
bit. There is more. But all right. Folklore of the Song. So we hereby conduct this post-mortem was used as an Easter egg during the rollout of Tortured Poets Department. We were all like, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, this whole song like frames the narrative of a post-mortem, which is literally the examination of a dead body to determine the cause of death.
Mm-hmm.
So this post-mortem is used as like the relationship cause of death. So
Yeah.
we're going to assess what actually caused this thing to die. Which is like a great metaphor, but yeah, it's just
Yeah, and then everyone was expecting Tortured Poets to like satisfy our empathetic hunger for this scoop on how she and Joe ended, but this song tells us that like she still doesn't really know herself,
which is probably harder.
Yeah, and I mean, the album is evidence that like she didn't have a ton to say at this point about their breakup.
Yeah. And she even mentioned, she was like, this is like a Tortured Poets was like a data dump of like everything she's thought, felt in the last like 2 years. So it was still really fresh at the time that she was writing this and putting pen to paper. I'm sure she probably has more thoughts about it now, but I do think that when there isn't something conclusive, like a big fight or indiscretion or infidelity or whatever, it's almost harder to unpack the fact that the relationship has ended. So yeah, we were hungry to know like what was going on. And she's basically like, I still don't know. So
Right. Well, and I still stand by. I think she mainly told us in Midnights and in Folklore and Evermore. I think that's where we actually got it.
That's where we really got the tea. So dig into that.
Yeah.
You know? All right, let's get into the song.
Okay.
Here is verse 1.
We hereby conduct this post-mortem. He was a hothouse flower to my outdoorsman. Our maladies were such we could not cure them, and so a touch that was my birthright became foreign.
All right. So before we get into the lyrics and everything, I want to talk about those like ghostly background vocals that we get in the beginning, because it reminds me of So Long London. So here's the beginning of So Long London.
Okay.
So long, London.
And then these are the vocals from How Did It End? It's like, it's very like church choir.
Ghostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we already talked about the post-mortem, but that phrase, we hereby conduct this post-mortem, is very formal and is often used in like legal documents, like we hereby declare or we hereby authorize, like that kind of thing, or something that would be said in a courtroom too.
Yeah.
So
also,
it's like
let's talk about the word. Let's talk about the word "we." Right?
Yeah.
It's like we hereby, she's already acknowledging that there are outsiders assessing the death of this relationship, aka
with her.
us.
Yeah.
Right, with her.
Mm-hmm.
We hereby is like exactly like she's setting the table. She's setting the scene. Okay.
Yeah.
And then she goes to, he was a hot house flower to my outdoorsman. And I remember we were like, hot house flower? Like, what the? So,
yeah.
A hothouse flower is a person who is very delicate, fragile, or vulnerable due to being sheltered and pampered.
Mm. Okay.
And well,
and Taylor is an outdoor cat, as we've described
right.
her. So they're like polar opposites in how they approach life. And I mean, when I heard hothouse flower, I mean, I guess is that actually used to describe a person typically?
When I searched it, it was like it's a term used for a person who's delicate, fragile, and vulnerable.
Okay.
But it's a hothouse flower itself is a flower that is in a hothouse, so it is delicate, fragile, and vulnerable. That's why it's placed indoors. So
okay, yeah, because I mean, I was just picturing, a plant in a greenhouse and being like, this thing's a plant, but it's actually inside.
Right.
And,
right.
Compared to an outdoorsman who's like, I just want to be outside,
Right.
So even without knowing that, you can figure out what she's saying here.
Right. They're polar opposites. Like they're just, the way they live is just not the same. Our maladies were such we could not cure them. I mean, maladies is sicknesses, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They broke up because their relationship was sick. And we know that because I feel like You're Losing Me is going to be referred to a lot. So
it is. Just get ready.
Yeah. So here's the first one.
My face was gray, but you wouldn't admit that we were sick.
Our maladies, our sicknesses. You couldn't admit that we were sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we're such we could not cure them. She also says this in You're Losing Me.
We thought a cure would come through in time. Now I fear it won't.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing I realized about this line one time when I was listening, like in the car or whatever, is that maladies sounds like melodies, right? Which is like, I don't know if she did this on purpose or not. I mean, knowing Taylor, probably. But coming
it reminds me of like the coward. The coward claimed he was a lion. Like, sounded like a liar.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple of times she's done that.
So going back to You're Losing Me, it makes me think of this.
How long could we be a sad song till we were too far gone to bring back to life?
Right.
So if you read it as our melodies were such we could not cure them, that is, we were a sad song. Like, how long could we be a sad song till we were too far gone to bring back to life? Our melodies were such we could not cure them.
Ooh. Deep.
Crazy.
And Taylor's also mentioned that her and Joe just basically like to write sad songs. That's what they would do together. So yeah. So a touch that was my birthright became foreign. So birthright is something that was fated or destined for her.
Mm-hmm.
She felt like it was fate that had intervened, that they were together and that they had found each other, which reminds me of this line from Invisible String.
And isn't it just so pretty to think all along there was some invisible string tying you to me?
So this fate had intervened and they found each other. That touch that was her birthright became foreign. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking of it like they had become so close that it was like her God-given right to be with him.
Mhm.
And yet they grew apart,
Right.
which made me think of this part of Peace.
Can feel the silence that only comes when two people understand each other. Family that I chose, now that I see your brother as my brother.
Like, if you've gotten that close with someone,
Right.
and then what, you just grow apart? Like, what?
Right. Right.
And then about like the word foreign too. How about this from Exile?
You're not my homeland anymore. So what am I defending now? You were my town. Now I'm in exile, seeing you out.
Is folklore really about fantasy or yeah?
And they wrote that one together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exile.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
How long can we be a sad song? Our melodies were such. Yeah.
we got some good ones. We got some good ones from him, though. I gotta give Joe his flowers for that. I mean,
Yeah. I wonder how Taylor feels about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of ties to like this feeling of like someone who is so close to you is like now gone, and that is confusing and
Yeah.
devastating at the same time. So here is chorus 1.
Come one, come all, it's happening again. The empathetic hunger descends. We'll tell no one except all of our friends. We must know. How did it end?
There's so many fun layers in that instrumental part.
Mm-hmm.
So come one, come all is what they say at a circus. Gathering in the huge masses of crowds. So of course, when that was mentioned, it made me think of this line from Who's Afraid?
I was tame, I was gentle till the circus life made me mean.
Yeah.
Circus life meaning like the music industry or the celebrity world that she had to be raised in. So come one, come all, she's like, call in the circus, like, let's go. This is what
Right.
I'm so used to.
Yeah, like I'm the circus, like freak show that you're all here to watch.
Yep.
So I just went through another breakup. So come on in.
Yep.
Check it out.
Yep. And she's also mentioned the circus in Getaway Car.
And a circus ain't a love story, and now we're both sorry. We're both sorry.
Yeah.
Also, why does she say sorry with a Canadian accent there?
Sorry.
So sorry. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's
and we
so
also
much.
had circus imagery and stuff with the I Can Do It with a Broken Heart choreography at the Era Store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a little bit of it in Life is Showgirl. So we shall see.
Oh yeah. It's happening again.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the most devastating lyrics because like we know that Taylor really thought this relationship would be endgame with Joe, but it's happening again.
Yeah.
Like, and before Joe, she was kind of famous for dating a lot of people and having all these breakups and like never being with someone for very long. And then she was with Joe for a long time. And it become like this example of how she can, quote, keep a man.
Yeah.
But now this one has ended too, just like all the others.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go again.
Yeah. And I think there's sort of like an acknowledgement in it's happening again with not only is this relationship ending and I'm going to have to start all over again, but it's also like it's happening again, meaning like I'm going to have to face the rumor mills and speculation and this is happening again. It's like not just
Yeah.
the relationship, it's like the broader
Yeah.
like experience of what it is to be like broken up with as Taylor Swift.
The circus of it all.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The empathetic hunger descends.
What a great descriptor. Empathetic hunger.
Yeah.
Like that's an amazing set of lines. Like that is a real experience because, you know, these people, we all like feign empathy for we want to be empathetic, but also there's that we want to know why. What's the tea?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, her using the word descends, like with it's like circus imagery. Don't like some circus acts kind of like float in like from above?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was like intentional, but
Yep.
yeah, you could also read it a little bit like that.
Right. And I feel like Taylor probably is used to having a lot of people encroach on her life.
Mhm.
I mean, she mentioned it in this line from But Daddy, I Love Him.
I don't cater to all these vipers dressed in empaths clothing.
She knows all these people are feigning empathy to get
Yep.
close to her and to know the tea. So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then all these people, well, we can discuss who's saying this, but the next part says, we'll tell no one except all of our friends.
mm-hmm.
So, like, is the we these people with the empathetic hunger saying, like, tell us, we won't tell anyone except all our friends? Or is the we her and Joe, like, not mentioning it to the world yet, but telling their friends?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's how I read it at first. It's like when you go through a breakup.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Two people in the relationship are like, we're not going to tell anyone. It's too fresh.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like, no, like, public kind of statement about the
Right.
breakup, but we are going to tell all of our friends.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it could be the people who claim that they like want to be there for her after a relationship but really they just like want the details so they can tell people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like the way she wrote this is really interesting because then the next part saying we must know, how did it end? Again, like, is this what the public is saying? Or is it what she and Joe are saying to each other? Like, we must know
Right.
how this ended, right?
Right.
And I double checked, and she does not use quotation marks at all in this song to differentiate, which we know she does in other songs.
Uh-huh.
And I wonder if it's because of this like purposeful ambiguity.
Yeah.
Where it could be talking about her and Joe as part of the relationship, or these people who just like want to know what's happening.
Right. And also, we hereby conduct this post-mortem could be Joe and her assessing,
right,
separately or together, what happened, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or it could be the public, right? And that ambiguity is like what makes analyzing this song so fun. But it is like one of those things. I always read it as like the public, like we must know, like we have to know. Tell us.
Yeah.
How did it end? You know?
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting to read it as like, this is something that she's sort of thinking about, like this other person is like, we must know, like there's a reason, right? But what is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's good. All right, let's go to verse 2.
We were blind to unforeseen circumstances. We learned the right steps to different dances and fell victim to interlopers' glances. Lost the game of chance, what are the chances? Soon they'll go home to their husbands, smug cause they know they can trust him, then feverishly calling their cousins.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
We were blind to unforeseen circumstances. Like, they did not see this coming.
Yep.
And we learned the right steps to different dances, which I mentioned
Mhm.
earlier. Just being on like different pages, growing
Not being
apart.
in sync. Yeah.
Yeah, like not in sync with each other. But I think it's a really good line because it doesn't place blame on anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we were both doing something. We were
Right.
learning steps to a dance.
In fact, we were learning the right steps. Like,
Right. We
Right.
were doing a good job. It just
Yeah.
turns out we were doing separate versions of it, you know?
right. Right. You were learning the foxtrot, and I
Right.
was learning the tango.
Yeah.
Um, and fell victim to interlopers' glances. This was like, this raised an eyebrow, like, because like an
Mhm.
interloper is someone who interjects.
Yeah.
And that low-key means cheating. Fell
Mhm.
victim to interlopers' glances means like we fell into the trap of other people
Mhm.
pining after us, or like there's some sort of like maybe emotional connection outside of the relationship. Like that's how I read it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Perhaps not, because interlopers' glances is different than like
Right.
something more physical. I guess.
Yeah, I guess I read it more like, let's take the Taylor and Maddie's situation, right?
Right.
If Maddie is kind of showing interest, or like if Joe has like a co-star or someone who seems to be interested,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not currently satisfied in your
Mm-hmm.
actual relationship, then you get a little attention from somebody else.
Right.
And you're like, oh,
Right.
what's going on over here?
Right. And we kind of know that Taylor was victim to this because of this line from Guilty as Sin.
These fatal fantasies, giving way to labored breath, taking all of me. We've already done it in my head.
Thank you
Ooh,
so much
Taylor.
for the data dump, Taylor. I want all the data
God.
dumps. Like, give
Right?
me everything. Guilty as Sin is so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I so often think about how people are like, if I went through what Taylor went through, I would take it all to the grave. And Taylor's just like, let me tell millions of people about it.
Yeah.
I love her so much.
I know. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you, Queen.
Yeah. But yeah, interlopers' glances, like we know that from Guilty as Sin, like Taylor was, you know, if it, you know, it feels like a vow we're both going to uphold somehow. It's like, well, girl,
Right.
okay?
She's like, it's gonna happen.
And you, like, yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
I know.
Clock
I
it.
know.
Clock it.
Lost the game of chance. What are the chances?
Mm.
I don't have the like word for this, but this is a thing in like poems or whatever where you use a word twice, but they have kind of different meanings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah. There
and
is like love is a gamble, right?
Right. But I also read this line as like being sarcastic.
Yeah, there's definitely a tinge of,
Yeah.
I guess there's a little anger in that line.
Yeah, it's like, what are the chances that this ended?
And there's
You know?
also a little tension in the next one, which is soon they'll go home to their husbands smug because they know they can trust him.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a little bit of that sarcastic, angry tension in that line too.
Yeah.
Because we'll tell no one except all of our friends. Those friends go on to go home and tell their husbands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then calling them smug because they know they can trust their husbands implies that Taylor can't trust this person
Right.
that, you know, in the
Right.
relationship. So,
Yep.
yeah, then feverishly calling their cousins. Yeah.
Gossip.
I picture like someone on like the landline phone with the spiral cord
Oh, yeah.
yapping. Like, guess what I saw?
Yeah.
You know?
I heard so-and-so and so were real flirty and now they broke up. Like, yeah.
Right.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But it
Chorus
is
two?
like, yeah, it
Oh,
is
go
one
ahead.
of those. So just final thought. It is one of those things where it's like, we must know how did it end. And then they'll go home to their husbands,
Mhm.
feverishly calling their cousins. And then like the next line is like even more public. Like even more people besides like these friends and their husbands and cousins. Like it's now moving outside of the family to this.
Guess who we ran into at the shops, walking in circles like she was lost. Didn't you hear? They called it all off. One gasp, and then how did it end?
Nope. Just nope.
Nope.
I remember when we listened to this the first time, like this chorus, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And like, I don't know if it's because I had that like kind of experience myself. But I think it's like, I can also picture being in that mindset when, you're recovering from a breakup and it's fresh. But then you also kind of still have to just go about your day and like go get
Just
groceries.
pretend like everything's normal. Nothing
And you're
is
just like
wrong
a zombie.
here.
And you're
Yep.
like, my whole life just blew up. But sure, let me go get more like milk and eggs
Yeah.
so I can
Right.
eat something.
Right. And like she's giving us the small town metaphor of like, guess who we ran into at the shops? But like those of us who live a small town metaphor, like that is so real. Like if you and your significant other like break up, everyone is going to know about it. And if they see you looking a little haggard at the grocery store, well, guess what? It's going to be chatted about.
Yeah. Oh, also the fact that she says at the shops, that places us in England.
Oh, 100%. That is not a term that we use here in the United States.
No, like they call it the shops, right?
We
like
would
if you're
say-
going to the grocery store or something.
We would say, guess who we ran into at the shop? Singular.
Yeah, or at the store.
So at the store.
At the store.
At the mall.
Yeah. Or you would say at the grocery store.
We would not say the shops. That's
No.
for sure. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, so long London.
Yep.
Walking in circles like she was lost, like she's kind of like lost her mind. She can't let it go. Like, but it's also kind of similar to Cardigan.
Chasing shadows in the grocery line.
Yep.
Yeah. Which, like, how is Taylor writing about going to the grocery store so much? Like, when was the last time she went to the grocery store?
I know, girl. Like, how often? I know you're bacon, but like, do you actually go to the grocery store?
Right.
If so, how?
With like a disguise?
But like, chasing shadows in the grocery line is one of those lines that hits. Because if you've been there, you know. Like, everyone kind of looks like that person, and you're like, wait, is that them? No.
Yeah.
Didn't you hear they called it all off? Like, it still sounds like something that these people would say to their husbands / cousins, right? Like, didn't you hear? They called it all off. That's the hot gossip they're going to talk about.
Yeah, it's like this whole chorus is explaining the like phone call or like what they said when they got home and talked to their husbands, because it's like, guess who we ran into? Like, didn't you hear? They called it all off. One gasp, and then how did it end?
That's
like,
why she looks so crazy. Yeah.
We're hearing the conversation that ensues after, people run into her and stuff and find out. Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, also.
And this sort of like imagery. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, also the one gasp and then line. One gasp is kind of similar to death rattle, which we get in the bridge. It's like they called it all off, one gasp, and then like it ended.
Yeah.
So there's that little like Taylor double meaning there, maybe. So
yeah.
Talk to us about this mirror ball reference.
So when I was thinking of like what Taylor must feel like after a relationship ending, knowing that the whole world is now speculating and gossiping and she's walking in circles like she was lost, it reminded me of this line from Mirrorball.
The masquerade revelers, drunk as they watch my shattered edges glisten.
So, drunk as they watch my shattered edges glisten is so real in terms of like the Eras tour because like she's devastated. She is literally shattered. But they're drunk as they're watching like my mirror ball sparkly little like I'm doing my little show and dance like I can do
sparkly
a broken heart
jumpsuit.
Right.
Or bodysuit. I mean like literally glistening.
Right. So that metaphor to me was like that is so real because walking in circles like she was lost, like whatever, it's like she was basically doing the opposite publicly.
Yeah.
But that line, I was like, wow, that is like something she kind of like wrote into existence because it was written before this, obviously, but I was like...
It's like a prophecy.
Yeah.
Well, even the first part of that line, she calls them the masquerade revelers. It's kind of like vipers dressed in empath's clothing.
And masquerade revelers is very much giving circus too. So
yeah.
Wow. Okay, and now we get to like the worst bridge, and by worst bridge I mean like most devastating bridge ever.
Everybody buckle in.
So here we go. Yeah.
Silenced as the soul was leaving, the deflation of our dreaming, leaving me bereft and reeling, my beloved ghost and me, sitting in a tree, D-Y-I-N-G.
Well,
why do we do this to ourselves?
I know. Well, she starts off with, say it once again with feeling. And quite like that circus metaphor we talked about, come one, come all, say it once again with feeling is something that a director would say to an actor, right? Like, perform for us, like, make it bigger, like, make bigger accusations, like, pretend like you're more sad or whatever. So she's clearly being told to express her heartbreak either in more detail by her friends or the public, but like she really can't because she still doesn't understand why or how this all happened. There's not anger. It's just sadness. It's not anything more than that. So she delivers like more and more painful lines.
Yeah.
Like she just like keeps adding on. It's crazy. Right. She's listening to the directions. Say it once again with feeling. Okay.
Right. And there's also speculation that something like this was said to her while trying to re-record Reputation,
Right.
which
Because
we know that she never really did.
Yeah.
We don't know. Well, she said because that it was like really, really hard to replicate.
Mm-hmm.
But we also know that Reputation is really like her love album about Joe. So like
Mm-hmm.
that could have been really hard to revisit at that point in time. So yeah, there's been some speculation that this was said to her while trying to re-record those songs, which may have led to the creation of this album in some part.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Yeah.
Yikes. All right. Should we talk about the death rattle?
Death rattle. What's a death rattle?
So death rattle is the rattling sound produced by the respiratory tract of a dying person. And it's a common but distressing symptom in the final stages of life, indicating that death is near. So this is very common with like hospice patients, like someone that you know is dying, right?
I've experienced it.
Ugh. So like she has seen the slow and painful death happening between them. So here is So Long London.
Every breath feels like rarest air when you're not sure if he wants to be there.
So like at the end of their relationship, feeling like she could barely get air. She could barely breathe, right? But also, when someone is on their deathbed and about to die, people usually say it's time, right? Like, especially if you have like a hospice patient and there's a hospice nurse, and and the nurse might come to you as a family member and say like, it's time, right? Well, do you remember this part of You're Losing Me?
Now I just sit in the dark and wonder if it's time.
Terrible.
Is it time for us to die? Is it time for this relationship to meet its death? Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Time to call it time of death, you know?
Yeah. And she says how the death rattle breathing silenced as the soul was leaving.
Oof.
Like the air literally stops as the soul of this relationship is exiting. Like it's such a vivid metaphor, period. I mean, I quickly mentioned, I've actually seen like a death rattle. It's actually pretty jarring, but like there is a moment, at least in my experience, where you actually like it. I truly felt like I saw the soul leave the body. It was like the life had just gone, and whether that's scientific or whatever, experiencing that was like one of the most life-changing things I've ever seen. But the death rattle was silenced because the soul was literally leaving. So all of this is now finally being exhaled. It's finally like exiting. And the deflation of our dreaming. What's crazy is that after the soul leaves the body, the body literally deflates. Like it's all of a sudden like there's no more energy, and it's just like I hate to use this term, but it's a corpse. Right. It's not even a body anymore because the soul has left. So the deflation of our dreaming is like, first of all, great alliteration, but all the dreams, all the plans, all the maybes, we'll figure it out, all the like hopeful, maybe like, I don't know, feelings that she had are gone.
Yeah. It's like popped like a balloon.
Right.
And it's that like final bit of air leaving the lungs, which is like from You're Losing Me.
I can't find a pulse. My heart won't start anymore for you.
Like it's done.
Yep.
And then also in So Long London, we have this.
I stopped CPR after all, it's no use. The spirit was gone, we would never come to.
Yeah, the soul was leaving. The spirit is gone.
Right.
And I think like her saying the deflation of our dreaming like hits me hard because I feel like this is the hardest part of a breakup a lot of times is like mourning the idea of what you thought
Mhm.
you would have.
Right.
Like all these hopes and dreams I had for my life with this person
Yep.
are just gone. They're just
Yep.
instantly gone.
Leaving me bereft and reeling, because why wouldn't you feel that way after experiencing that? Like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
spiraling.
And the word bereft typically refers to grieving a death, like of a person. So again, it's her comparing this relationship ending to the death of a person.
Mhm.
And I have to agree, like breakups do feel like a death. Like
Yeah.
it is true grief
Yeah.
when you go through one. Yeah, like, and I would even say like with my divorce, I mean, obviously, like, it's not the same as losing a spouse to death. But to me, it felt more similar to that than divorce. Because when you think of divorce, it's more like something went wrong. You're probably
Right.
angry at the person. You're like,
Right.
I need to get out of this. I'm like better off.
Hang tight. Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, like I need to get out of this. I'm better off without that person. I feel like that's typically what you think of when you hear that someone went through divorce. Whereas the way my divorce happened, it felt more like my husband had died.
Mhm.
Like, not him as a person, like I said, because obviously he was still around and still in my life, which I was extremely grateful for. But
Mhm.
it was like my husband as an entity had died.
And
It was like
the life you had developed
the life
together.
we had together.
Right.
Yeah, so it was like one day I was married and had a husband, and then all of a sudden, because of this like outside force, the way it felt, I no longer had a husband.
Right.
So yes, I was grieving that relationship and this like partner, even though the person was still very much there and a
Mhm.
part of my life, thank God, to this day.
Mhm.
But yeah, like you have to grieve a relationship and everything that came with it. And I mean, it can be, I think, as impactful as the death of a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes death is shocking, and sometimes death is slow, and sometimes death is expected, and sometimes death is like people really can't rationalize the fact that the person's not there. Some
Mhm.
relationships are unexpected. Some relationships end that, all of this can be very much aligned with grief and death.
Mhm.
And obviously there is a complete difference between like actually losing someone in a
Yeah.
relationship. We're not
Mhm.
trying to make that metaphor like,
Right.
this is us like being metaphorical, not
Yeah.
obviously. But
But I do think that probably it affects the brain the same way.
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
like there are times like, I mean, I think about how I reacted when we first heard the manuscript. Like the grief of my divorce will still hit me sometimes, like as
Mhm.
if it just happened to me. Because you
Mhm.
get back in that place. And it's the same way when you lose a person where, sometimes something just hits you and you are suddenly feeling all of those feelings all over again,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. After losing my uncle, like not unexpectedly, but it happened really quickly.
Hmm.
I'll live my life totally normally, and then all of a sudden, like one
Yeah.
thing will cross my mind, and I'm
Yep.
back there. I'm back in that grief.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that the deflation of our dreaming is really devastating because, like, there goes that life, there goes that whatever, which you feel in death, and you also feel at the end of a relationship.
Hmm.
Leaving me bereft and reeling, of course, you're grieving, you're spiraling, you're like wondering, like, how is this possible?
Hmm.
Death can feel like that. A relationship ending can feel like that.
Yeah.
And then she says, my beloved ghost and me.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
So, ghost obviously implies that her lover is dead,
Hmm.
sitting right next to her, sitting in a
Yeah.
tree. Okay. But what killed me is what you actually pointed out. This is so sad.
Yeah. And ready for it.
Oh my.
She refers to Joe as a ghost when she says this.
But if he's a ghost, then I can be a phantom, holding him for ransom.
So
But
he
now-
was her beloved ghost.
Her beloved ghost and me
Yeah.
sitting in a tree. DYING.
Nope.
Which, like,
Taylor.
is a dark and twisted way of rewiring the classic sitting in a tree, KISSING.
Yeah. And I feel like she's kind of like making fun of herself here in like a very, very sad way. Because that song, the
Mhm.
Sitting in a Tree, KISSING, also references getting married and having babies. Like, it's like next comes marriage.
Yeah, first
and-
comes
and
love.
then
Yeah.
comes marriage, then comes a baby in the baby carriage. So it's like she's making fun of herself for thinking that they would have had that together. Which is...
It's also like such a good image too, like Taylor sitting in a tree with a ghost sitting next to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like my brain can actually imagine it.
Yeah. Me too.
That hurts.
It
That
hurts.
hurts. Yeah.
Oh.
And she does not stop. She literally piled on that bridge. Say it once again with feeling, how the death rattled breathing, silenced as the soul was leaving me bereft and reeling.
Yeah.
Like, or the deflation of our dreaming. Like, oh my God. It's just like, anytime
She's
someone's like,
unwell.
oh, Taylor Swift can't write lyrics, I'm like, listen to the bridge of How Did It End? Okay.
Yeah. This is where I go to like this song or LOML lately. That's where I go. It's
I
so
can't
good.
listen to LML. When we get to that song, I'll just not be on camera. So,
Right. That might be one of our ones coming up. So
yeah,
get ready.
yikes. Yeah. All right, let's
right.
get to basically the end of the song. Here we go.
Yeah.
It's happening again. How did it end? I can't pretend like I understand. How did it end? Come one, come all. It's happening again. The empathetic hunger descends. We'll tell no one except all of our friends, but I still don't know. How did it end?
Girl. Also listening to that, the first How Did It End she sings in that part. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Just listen to this real quick. I'll pause it afterwards. But she like catches it before she sings How Did It End?
Mhm.
Like it's unhinged. Listen to this.
It's happening again. How did it end?
Right. The how?
How did it end? Yes.
It's this like
Oh.
gasp. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, like she can hardly get it out there. Like she's like
It's
losing
like
her
Last
grip a little bit.
Kiss. Isn't it
Mhm,
Last
the
Kiss
shaky
where she has
breath?
that too? Yeah.
The shaky breath.
It's a
yeah.
little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
then-
pretend like I understand. She doesn't
Right.
know.
She doesn't know. I can't pretend like I understand how this ended. I
And
literally don't know.
I still don't know. So it turns into like, we must know, to like her saying, I still don't know.
I still
At the
don't
end
know.
of this post-mortem, we did this post-mortem and she still doesn't know.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yikes.
don't know. She got us with this one.
Yeah. Mhm.
Mm.
This song, to be a little nerdy about it, is not
Mhm.
in 4/4, which is in that's the time signature most songs are in.
Mhm.
Unless it's a waltz or something like that. This from my
Mhm.
my end of things as a music educator, I believe that this song is in 12/8.
Okay.
Which technically would be conducted in 4 because like da 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 1, 2,
Mhm.
3, 4. But it's not 4/4. It's 12/8 because it's lilting.
Mhm.
There's like that. It's not a straightforward rhythmic 4/4 situation. Anyway, it's 12/8.
Right. Mhm.
And it like is lilting, meaning it is near death. It is
Right.
dying. It is not a strong and steady 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and
Right.
2 and 3 and 4. It's like it's off balance. It's off kilter. It's
Mm.
not a waltz, but it's in 4/4-ish when you conduct it. It's like
Mhm.
it's chugging along, but
Yeah.
it's dying.
Mm.
Like it's
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, we can't have an episode about this song without discussing the live version that she did on the Eras tour.
Wreck me.
It wrecked all of us. Like the raw emotion. Everyone agrees it's one of her best performances, if not like the best of all of her surprise songs throughout the entire tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was driving in my car to my parents' house from Allentown, and it was Surprise Song o'clock. So of course I pull it up the live stream on my
Mhm.
phone, and she did this song, and I was just like weeping and driving, just
I
driving
can't
and
even.
weeping.
How do you even perform this song?
I don't know.
How do you perform it?
I don't know. But anyway, we have a clip so you guys can hear it. So here is a nice little chunk of the live version.
Say it once again with feeling how the death rattle breathing, silence as the soul was leaving, the deflation of our dreaming, leaving me bereft and reeling, my beloved ghost in me, sitting in a tree, D-Y-I-N-G. It's happening again. How did it end? I can't pretend like I understand. How did it end? Come one, come all. It's happening again. The empathetic, all good it sends will tell no one except all of our friends. But I still don't know. How did it end?
She's insane for that. Also, did you hear like in between each line of the bridge there where she like you can hear her take a big breath?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that,
Yep.
you know, the final gasping for air before the death rattle.
How do you play that song live? I mean, she's talked about in New Heights how like she would basically practice between like
Mhm.
what are the surprise songs going to be? What are the mashups going to be?
Right.
I just can't
Yeah.
imagine.
I don't know. She's a professional for
Yeah.
sure.
We also know that she does bring emotion to her surprise songs. I mean, we've had a lot of angry
Mhm.
renditions of songs that are like not typically angry, and you're like, oh, mom's mad.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, we did get that, especially early on in the tour.
yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a great live version though.
Also, she's so crazy too because I think like with that one and a lot of her ones like that, she does her little like twinkly piano thing at
Mm-hmm.
the end. She sings this devastating song, and then she does that, and then she does her little like smile,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and like wrinkles like her nose, and then she gets up and like does her little
And just
bow.
dives into the
She's
stage.
like,
Yeah.
hope you enjoyed that. We're all like, thanks. We just died. As
We're
a
like,
unit.
she did what? Yeah.
Rude.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about favorite lyrics in our rating. So for me, this is a 9.1 out of 10. If I want to get wrecked, this is the one.
Yeah.
This and LOML and Marjorie are the ones I like cannot like listen to. My personal favorite lyric is this.
Silenced as the soul was leaving, the deflation of our dreaming, leaving me bereft and reeling.
Just like that imagery, the like, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I feel ya.
I want to know if Taylor's seen someone die, because that is how it is. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm right there with you. I gave it a 9 out of 10, which I could maybe be convinced to go up, but I'm going to leave it at a 9.
Okay.
Which for me, like, a lot of mine are 9s. Like, if I think it's like really, really good, it's a 9. It's got to be in like my top 10 to get much higher than a 9. And my favorite lyric, I've already talked about it, but it's this.
We learned the right steps to different dances.
It just hits.
Yep.
I know exactly what she means when she says that.
Yep.
Yeah. So how about this song is a recipe?
Okay. So I wanted to find something that was like dark, but I also kind of wanted it to be like an alcoholic drink, because like I was thinking of like the chatter, the rumor mill, the gossip is like buzzy. So when I think of like buzzy drinks that are like strong, I think of Negronis, because like that is one of my go-to cocktails if I'm trying to like have a good time.
Yeah.
But Negronis are like red. So I was like, that's not the right thing. So I found this recipe for what's called a black Negroni. So it has that Negroni quality, but you can add like activated charcoal to like actually make it look like it is a darker color. It's from the Pennsylvania Fine Wine and Good Spirits website. So it's super simple. It's the same like Amaro, you know, gin and like a bitter, but then they said like add like activated charcoal. And it is like technically without the activated charcoal, a little bit more of that like darker brooding sort of color than like a bright red, if that makes sense. So I will link the recipe, but that's what I picked.
Okay. Well,
How about you?
I picked brownie salted caramel ice cream, because this is what I would want to be eating after a breakup.
That sounds so good.
Right? It's also like rich and indulgent, which I feel like this song is. Like, it's a heavy hitter, as we've discussed. But also in my mind, when Taylor is wandering through the shops in this song, it's because she's there to buy ice cream to go home and wallow about her
classic breakup. Right.
Yeah.
Classic breakup move. I'm getting a pint of Ben and Jerry's or like whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm going home.
Yeah. So that's what I would be doing. And I found a recipe for this brownie salted caramel ice cream that is a no churn recipe. So you don't need an ice cream maker to make it. It looks really good. Like, I would eat all of this. Like, this is the kind of thing I cannot have it in my house, because I will be eating a lot of it every day until it's gone. So it's best for me to just not have it around.
I gotta let it at the grocery store. Yeah. Gosh. Okay. Well, guys, we got through it.
I don't know how I didn't cry. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I was on the verge a few
I don't know
times.
either. So. But we survived. For sure. We did. Yeah. All right. So let's get into it. Let's do our little sign off. Thank you so much for joining us, as always. And if you want to support the pod, please give us a follow at Blank Plate Pod on TikTok and Instagram, and make sure that you're following us on YouTube.
And you can check out our website at blankplatepodcast.com. And please send us an email at blankplatepod@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail or text us at 717-382-8313.
And if you're enchanted by what we're doing here, support us on Patreon, which is linked in our show notes, or you can go there directly at patreon.com/blankplatepodcast.
And until next time, we had the time of our lives with you.
And you know, it's time to go.
So bye.
Bye.